Well, it's very noisy up here on the Etihad gantry, Gary, understandably so. We've just seen, particularly in the second half, Manchester City demolish Manchester United.
Yes. Should we start at the end, where I get angry, or should we start at the beginning?
Yeah.
Look, the first half, it really surprised me, the Manchester United team, because I thought that they would play Rashford, Elanga and Sancho, and we thought that Cristiano Ronaldo, or we heard Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't playing. But we saw that Manchester United came out with a sort of system that surprised us all, with Fernandes and Pogba up front. And for 25 minutes, I thought Manchester United played pretty well. Real good intent. The back four pushed up the pitch. They were close together. I thought they were brave on the ball. And I thought they were going punch for punch with Manchester City. How long that would last, we didn't know. But we knew that they didn't have a counter-attack in them with those two sort of midfield players playing up front. So they maybe had to be a little bit front foot. But, you know, 2 sloppy goals to give away. But overall, at half-time, could have even been 2-2. Sancho had a really good chance just before half-time. And at half-time, I was thinking that Manchester United are in this game, particularly with the record here over the last 2 or 3 seasons. So, you know, first half wasn't too bad. For Manchester City, I think it took them 25 minutes to get going. Although I always thought they posed a problem down that left-hand side. Grealish, Bernardo Silva and Foden were always dangerous. I mean, most of City's attacks were down that side away from us over there. And they really were causing problems.
But they weren't dominating possession, City. They were dangerous
No.
when they got the ball, but they weren't getting it as often as you expect here.
Martin, I went down to our director part-way through the first half, and I think I'd announced in the first couple of minutes that Manchester City will dominate possession. And at that point in the game, it was 52-48, and that was about 15-20 minutes in, which really did sort of give me an impression that this game was different than I thought it would be. But the problem for United was down that right-hand side with Wan-Bissaka, sort of Lindelof, Elanga, more Wan-Bissaka really. But you're right, Manchester City started a little bit slowly. I think United's system caught them by surprise.
So what changed? Half-time came, and it was like it was a different game in the second half. But did you see anything that made that happen? Was it just City increasing the intensity, increasing what they do very well to do it even better?
Yes, maybe they just got closer to them on the sort of transition. When City give it away, maybe they won the ball back a little bit quicker off Manchester United. But it just felt like Manchester City just, when I say grew in the game, it just like almost it became too much. And they were just so much better from the very first second of that second half. And the ending of the game was something that, to be fair, was shameful. I don't use that word lightly. Manchester United's players didn't bother the backsides for the last 25 minutes from that goal going in. It was really, really terrible. I've got, great sympathy in some ways for Manchester United's players at this moment in time, having to play against this great a Manchester City team. We had a situation like that towards the end of my career at Manchester United with Barcelona when they had the Messi, Xavi and Iniesta, and they just kept the ball off you, and it was painful to watch. And there's a little bit of that here, obviously, with Manchester City, but you've still got to have a go. You've still got to put it in. You've got to do the hard yards. You've got to run to the end. There's about 4,000 Manchester United fans over in that far corner. And that last 25 minutes, I reckon there's probably only about 1,000 left at the end. I was watching them walk out sort of minute by minute. And I went from feeling that Manchester United hadn't responded well after the third goal to thinking this is not good at all. In fact, I was disgusted. I don't know what the hell happened to them after that third goal. I couldn't be more harsh. And I've been, to be fair, over the last couple of years, thought that I've accepted that Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Pep Guardiola's Manchester City are exceptional. And in a cycle, that can happen. We had it for a small period when I was at the club under Sir Alex Ferguson with an outstanding Jose Mourinho team and Arsene Wenger Invincibles for 3 years where we didn't win the league. I know it's been longer than that, but when you do get two exceptional teams, you think, when are we going to win the league again? So I get the fact that these Manchester United players here are playing against good opposition, but I never once saw a Manchester United team, even in the last under Van Gaal and Mourinho, I never saw them give up. They gave up in that last 25 minutes.
It was Ralph Hasenhüttl who came with Southampton to Old Trafford recently. After the game, he said, well, we know Manchester United don't like running back towards their own goal. In a game where he got a good result there, and he actually announced it, which managers don't normally do, but we did see something of that in the second half, I guess.
Martin, I said something a few weeks ago that we go and watch all the teams in the Premier League, not every single team every single week, but we see most teams in the Premier League, barring one or two, And I have to say that every single one of them work hard. They're always compact, they're organised, and they've got a game plan. I watched Manchester United this season from the beginning right the way to now. And even in the last sort of what would be 2 or 3 months where Ralph Rangnick's had a pretty good run in terms of only lost 1 game out of 15. But there have been games that I've seen that, the warning signs were there where David De Gea has kept them in the team, kept them in the game. And we knew that this period was coming, Atletico Madrid twice, Liverpool, Tottenham and Manchester City all in the space of a month. Now, the Liverpool game's gone because of the FA Cup. Liverpool have got through in the next round. But that's the first proper team that Manchester United, I think, have faced, where you say they're against the top team and they've been obliterated, and it was no different than it was 3 or 4 months ago under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And it's no reflection upon Ralph Rangnick. I don't put any blame on him whatsoever here today. And you asked the question during the game, will he be here at the end of the season? He won't be the manager at the end of the season, absolutely not. The question is which players will be here at the end of the season. And I've been critical of Manchester United's players in the last few months in terms of their spirit, the leaks, the lack of sort of what would be, I think, togetherness. And it comes pretty much hurtling towards you in a game like this, because it'll find out whether you've got a spirit or not. It's okay coming back against Brighton, or scraping through games against Brighton and Southampton and Villa and all those teams they've played, whereby they are better players. They've got a £330 million budget and they've spent 1.2 billion on this lot, so they should have if you like, enough quality to compete against those teams and stay in the game even if they're not playing well. But when you play against the top team, you'll get pulled apart. And what we saw at the end of that match was a spiritless Manchester United. And that's the biggest concern. Those players have got to get that spirit back. They've got to have that fight back. Rumours before the game about Cristiano Ronaldo, what's happened with him today. Rangnick said it was a hip injury, but, we saw it on social media coming through that there was nothing wrong with him. Rumours that Cavani's said he doesn't want to play even though he's fit. Again, not great. So all these things are emerging from the dressing room, and we don't know how much of them is true. Varane's not here today, Shaw's not here. All of a sudden, these last-minute sort of, non-appearances, if you like, and they add weight to the sort of what would be argument that something's not right in that dressing room. But the biggest evidence that you could see that there's something not right in that dressing room is their response to the 3-1, the third goal that Manchester City scored today.
In a derby. In
a derby. Martin, look, I had an appalling game, not here, but at Main Road, many, many years ago, where I gave the ball away against Sean Gota, and it was a horrible day. But I know full well that me and the rest of the players on the pitch that had a horrible day, and I made that mistake that day, and it was a shambolic mistake. The effort was still there, the spirit was still there, the sort of going to the end was still there. It was just a bad day for us, and I made a bad mistake which contributed to that enormously. Today, Manchester United players have made mistakes, which is fine. That can happen. They've also conceded a couple of great goals, and they're playing against a fantastic group of players. But they have thrown the towel in the last 25 minutes. And if they watch that back, they've walked around that pitch. They've not got a jog on. 92% possession. I mean, I know that City keeps 70%, 75% possession against teams regularly. 92%. Not just over 5 minutes, over 15 minutes. And you're trying to chase a game in a derby. That is, you wouldn't want that on your CV, but those Manchester United players who are out there have got it on their CV, and that is something that's really, really bad. It's really bad.
Well, let's talk about City, and 2 players I want to talk about. Jack Grealish, who perhaps we turned up here today not necessarily expecting to see him start. He played the whole game the other night, but got a goal and looks as though he's back in the groove. He's come back from injury. How is he fitting into the world that's very different to the Villa team that he played in, but obviously he shows sublime skills that got him the move?
Yeah, well, look, sometimes there's 2 things. One, when a player comes from a club that the expectation aren't as high and the standards aren't as high, it shocks them. And they have to sort of, if you like, come through that shock of thinking that, I'm going to come here, £100 million, I'm going to be able to sort of, get the ball all the time. We keep 75% possession. I'm going to have assists and goals. I scored loads of goals and got loads of assists at Villa, so I'm bound to get them here. And all of a sudden, it doesn't just quite happen like that. And there's a little bit of that with Jack. I think there's then a little bit of, with Pep Guardiola, getting used to Pep Guardiola's system. And we've seen many players come here and thrive in the second season when they've got used to that sort of 12 months of bedding in. And I made a point, and I don't know whether you agree with me, that when I've seen the ball arrive at Jack's feet, where I see Jack the best is when he receives the ball at his feet and then he drives directly at people with intent, and he looks like he's running at sort of real speed where he can sort of wrong foot them and go both ways. That's the problem I would have as a right back playing against Jack Grealish. I thought there have been times where he just stood on the ball, giving that rollover one, where he's not moving it and he's looking good, and he's sort of thinking that the right back's sort of going to come and confront him, but he's not really doing anything. He ends up passing it back to Cancelo or whoever's left back, imagining that something's going to happen for him without having to put the hard yards in. I think today the penny dropped in some ways, and maybe the fact he's been left out for 6 weeks. I think you said it was the first time he's played in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a shin injury, which is something that's it's not the first time he's had that, so they've been careful with it.
Yeah, but I think today felt to me like he looked more athletic. He looked like he had a better, more positive and direct in his play. Understanding it's a big game, and this game doesn't sort of, if you like, welcome passengers. You can't sort of float around in these games thinking you're a good player. You have to go and perform. And he's got someone up there alongside him in Phil Foden who's tenacious, he's aggressive, he sprints, he fights for every ball. And Jack just needed that little bit of that in his game today. And I thought he had it from minute one. I thought he was really positive. I thought that he caused Wan-Bissaka down that side massive problems with Foden and Bernardo Silva. I mean, he's got great players around him as well. But this could be the day where he's sort of what would be, people see his form changing. People see the sort of, if you like, the Jack Grealish that was meant to be signing for City come, because we didn't expect him to play. I expected to see Raheem Sterling on that left-hand side. And when we saw Jack Grealish, I thought, right, okay, this is Pep sort of giving him his head, saying, go on, you're on, kid. And I think he's delivered today. I think he performed really well.
And Raheem Sterling can't get in on the right either, because Riyad Mahrez, and we shouldn't be so surprised, because, of course, at Leicester, he and Jamie Vardy, obviously history, we look at the detail, it's not quite as simple as that, but they led the way for Leicester to win the league against all the odds.
Yeah.
And Mahrez came here and he's had his moments, and a lot of good moments, and he's been here a while now. But he suddenly, somehow, seems to have found that little bit of... I talked about the joy that he plays with, and the left foot is...
Yeah. Do you know something? He plays the position beautifully in terms of when to be wide, when to move in, when to hold his position. He's always composed. And I think he plays the position better than anybody that I see at the moment in world football in terms of just how to play that position. And then he also has got this incredible thing for a winger, which wingers don't have, is consistency. Of the rest of the players in the team know exactly what... In fact, we know what he's going to do with it every time he gets it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it any easier to mark if you're a player like Tellez today, who's thinking, well, he wants to go back in his left foot, but he's also got that one where he can go outside you if you show him too much. And it's a real conundrum. He's performing at such a high level in a team that's performing at a high level. He gets the ball, he receives the ball in good areas with the right weight in front of him from De Bruyne and Silva and the other midfield players. So he's a joy in that sense. But he's performing, I say, it's rare to get consistency from a winger. It's rare to get high-level performances week in, week out, season in, season out. He knows the position very well. He looks like he's at very much the sort of what would be peak of his career. You know, Manchester City have got him now right at the peak of his career where he's performing, he's producing his best football. And he's no longer the sort of, if you like, the surprise package that he was at Leicester, where he kept cutting that left foot and just whipping it into that far corner. He's having to work a lot harder at Manchester City because the people are doubling up on him and they're stopping him coming in that easily. So he's having to do it a lot. People might say, oh, it's easy for him here because he's playing in sort of a team that's better. There are parts of it that are, but also there are parts of it that aren't, because he's getting marked a lot closer. He's getting a lot less space. He's got people around him, maybe 2 and 3 people around him rather than maybe one in that first season at Leicester. So for me, brilliant player, but they all are, Martin. They all are. They all are. And I was watching Diaz last night for Liverpool, another one, and Jota come off the bench. And Mane, and they're all fantastic, these front players for these two clubs.
But, Gary, every round of matches is a new story, and this weekend's story is that Manchester City have romped the derby, and Liverpool scraped it and were pretty lucky to get the 3 points against West Ham. But both have got 3 points.
They've both got 3 points. We've definitely got a title race, irrespective of whether both got 3 points. City will come off here today flying. They'll be absolutely buzzing with what they've done here today. But we have still got a title race because Liverpool are dangerous. Liverpool have got, I think, the better front players in their squad and in the team. I really believe that. Look at Mane, Salah, Firmino, Jota, Diaz, Origi. I think 6 players there that really are a massive threat. 3 or 4 of them out of this world, a couple of them world class. And that makes them a real threat towards the end of the season. And Liverpool have won a trophy last week. We saw that at Wembley. They've got the bit between the teeth. And you saw Jurgen Klopp's celebration after that game against West Ham. That was telling. That was telling. Sir Alex Ferguson used to do that sometimes, almost over-celebrate when it was a 1-0 because he knew how big it was. I don't think you can sort of say, Liverpool struggled to beat West Ham at home, but City have battered United. Liverpool could batter United in a few weeks' time when they play them as well. We've seen City struggle here against Tottenham and obviously lose the game. So there's a long way to go, but we've got two brilliant teams. We have got a title race, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think there's a long way to go, and I don't think it's Pep Guardiola's doing an interview here on our screens next to us. I don't think it's something that's cut and dried.
I have to ask you about the third-place team, who are now in political issues with the ownership as well. How do you read that?
Well done to Thomas Tuchel. Well done to Thomas Tuchel. I do think that, managers... There are those that say that, it shouldn't be him answering the questions, but I do believe that managers now and players, they have to sort of face up to these societal, political, and obviously these issues, these crises that are happening at the moment away from the pitch. And he stood up really well during the week. I think, he obviously said that he didn't want to answer questions anymore, but he had answered those questions for 7 minutes, and he'd done it very well. And then I think yesterday, to say what he said was brave, to say, to take on your own fans, which he did in a very sort of what would be measured way.
Fatherly way, really.
Yeah, it was right. Look, that's not right. We don't do that. And I think, again, that was a good play from him, because I think he gains authority, not just with fans of his own club, because I think they'll think, well, he's got something about him. But he also, I think, will gain some sort of, certainly some credibility, if he has got credibility, but some more credibility and substance with everybody in football, because it's not an easy position for him to be in at this moment in time, but he's handling it particularly well, I think. Well,
they're still in Europe, they're still in the FA Cup, and obviously probably Liverpool and Manchester City are over the hill as far as the league is concerned, but what effect do you imagine it might have? Because whatever we think about the reasons for this happening, it's happening, and it doesn't look as though there's going to be a quick fix.
No, they've got a very experienced dressing room, though. A very experienced dressing room and an experienced manager. And I do think that this is unprecedented. But I do think that they're handling it well. I do think that they are experienced enough to know that they don't want this. It's nothing to do with them. The players on the pitch, the manager in the dugout. We know it's not them. If anything, they'll be absolutely against it as much as everybody else is in this country and most of the world. So I think that my view on it would be that because of that, they'll compete. They'll continue to sort of be professional. They'll be respectful and understand the position that they're in as a club, with obviously their owner, and his alleged association, and the fact that he's selling the club. So it's not going to go away this for them. But I do believe they are experienced enough to be able to handle it, and they've got a good bunch of players who've had success in the last 12 months with the World Club Championship and obviously the Champions League. So I think that they're in a good place. And I actually thought they were very unlucky not to win that League Cup final last weekend. I mean, the chances that they had in that game were incredible, and they'll not believe that they haven't won it. So I don't think it was a performance thing last weekend against Liverpool. They still turned up and really did well in that game.
We can't leave without talking about Arsenal. I don't know how much you saw of it. I watched a fair bit of it today.
Yeah.
A mixture of excellence and a bit of vulnerability thrown in as well. But they are now in fourth position. They've got some games in hand. We've got a couple of big games coming up at the Emirates. They play Leicester and they play Liverpool live on Sky Sports. Somehow they've sort of crept in, haven't they, really?
Crept in, but also playing very good football. Questions being asked about Arteta, questions being asked about Arsenal at the part by us and by also Arsenal fans. But they've got a very good first 11, 12, 13 players. And obviously they are finely tuned. If Lacazette was to get injured, then they'd have problems. They wouldn't have too much behind it. But they've put themselves into a great position. And it would be a fantastic season for Mikel Arteta for him to get top four. It really would. And that wouldn't have been expected by any of us. When Conte came into Tottenham, no one was thinking Arteta fourth. When Manchester United spend the money they spend at the start of the season, no one was thinking Arteta and Arsenal fourth. And they've got it to do. I don't rule out that they'll have obstacles in the way and they'll stutter and they'll hesitate and they'll have difficult moments. But they are in a great position. Manchester United have got difficult games to come in the next few weeks, and they could be really, if Arsenal can win the next 2 or 3 games, they could be in a fantastic position to really go home and sort of, like they say, achieve what I think would be a really good season for them.
You'd empathise. They had backing youth, as you were backed at the start of your career.
Yeah, but good youth. I mean, obviously he's got players there that I think you'll remember the game. Was it 2 years ago against Chelsea when there was a few players missing through various reasons, and he brought in Saka, Martinelli, and Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe. He brought those 3 in that day, and we thought, well, this could be difficult. And they were sensational. And I think from that moment, Mikel Arteta has recognised that that's the way forward for the club. That he wants players he can work with, that can grow with him, that he can mould, that will have that fighting spirit. And he made a big call with Aubameyang, going over to Barcelona, sending him out of the club. But it's a battle that managers, if they're going to establish themselves and gain control, have to win, and the club have to back them. And the manager has been backed by the Arsenal board, and this moment in time, it's paying off. Quite a few games to go, and we'll see how it goes at the end of the season. But at this moment in time, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta are in a good place.
I think we all are as football lovers, with the Premier League and the way it's gone and where we are at this particular moment in time, into March now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that can still happen. Gary, it's a pleasure being sharing today with
Martin.
you.
Thank you.